What if obedience wasn't really what we thought it was? What if it's less about just following a set of rules and more about a deep, foundational trust? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. We're going to unpack the core ideas from Sonia T. Anderson's devotional text, Acts of Obedience. Over the next few minutes, we'll break down this really incredible four-part journey that totally reframes obedience, taking it from a simple choice all the way to an ultimate promise. So let's jump right in.
Okay, so right from the start, everything in this text really hangs on this one single powerful statement. We must obey Yahweh rather than men. It puts a choice right in front of you, doesn't it? Are you going to follow human expectations, or are you going to answer a higher calling? And the text makes it really clear this isn't just a nice suggestion. It's the fundamental decision that shapes everything that follows.
All right, so if the core choice is to obey God over man, what does that kind of obedience actually look like? Well, the author starts right at the very beginning, at the foundation. They argue that before we can even act, we have to get our heads around what the word obey truly means. And I'm telling you, it's probably not what you're thinking.
And this is where things get really, really interesting. When you look at the original Greek word for obey, which is pytharko, it's not about blind submission, not at all. Its root is all about being persuaded, about having confidence in something. So you see, right from the jump, the text redefines obedience as an act of trust, not just a command you have to follow. The author uses this really powerful comparison to make the point crystal clear. Think about it. In the military, you can obey an order without loving your commanding officer, right? It's about duty. But, and this is the key, the text argues that for the kind of obedience it's describing, love is completely non-negotiable. Without it, the whole concept just falls apart. So the big takeaway from this first part is pretty simple. Love isn't just a nice-to-have. Nope. It is the absolute prerequisite. According to this text, you can't even begin to mature in this kind of obedience until you have first matured in love. Everything else is built right on top of that foundation. Okay, so if the foundation is love, how do we actually build on it? How does this kind of abstract idea become a real daily thing? This is where the text moves from the what to the how, and it lays out some really practical tools for the journey. To explain this whole practice, the author brings up that famous parable of the 10 virgins. Now, the key here isn't just having a lamp, it's about having enough oil to keep it lit while you wait. This whole idea of being spiritually prepared, of keeping your lamp full, is totally central to the daily habits the text gets into.
Which, of course, leads to the obvious question, if the lamp is a metaphor for our spiritual life, then what exactly is the oil that keeps it burning?
And the answer, according to the text, is this. The oil is the very substance of your faith. It's Yahweh's word, His precepts, His commandments, His teachings. Essentially, it's all the wisdom and guidance that you find in Scripture. That is the fuel that keeps your spiritual lamp burning bright. Now, besides studying Scripture, the second crucial practice is prayer. But again, the text challenges the conventional view. It's not just about, making a list of requests. It's framed as something way more dynamic, an exchange of ideas.
And just like before, if you look at the original Greek proseuchomai, it reveals a much deeper meaning. It points to a two-way communication, a real dialogue. That completely reframes prayer as a relationship that you cultivate, not just a monologue that you deliver. And to make this dialogue a consistent habit, the text lays out this simple but really powerful daily pattern. You start the day setting your intention. You check in midday to kind of recenter yourself, and then you reflect in the evening. It's this practical framework for keeping that exchange of ideas going all day long. So, we have the foundation of love and the practice of study and prayer. But what's the purpose? Where does all of this actually lead? Well, the third stage is all about living a life of service and mission. This is where the journey really turns outward. The whole purpose of all this inner work is to become an ambassador. Think about it. An ambassador doesn't speak for themselves. They represent the interests of their home country. The text argues that in the very same way, believers are meant to be active representatives of a spiritual kingdom right here on earth.
And this leads us to one of the most well-known and maybe most misunderstood metaphors in the faith. What does it actually mean to take up your cross daily? The source offers a really specific interpretation of this.
And this is another one of those mind-shifting moments in the text. We usually associate the cross, or stauros, only with suffering. But the root of the word also means to make a stand, or to be fixed. So instead of seeing it as just an instrument of pain, the author reframes it as a symbol of your unshakable purpose. So here's the key insight. The cross isn't some random, oppressive burden that you're forced to carry around. According to this text, it's your specific life's purpose. Taking up your cross means actively choosing to set aside your own personal agenda to fulfill the unique mission that you've been given.
And that brings us to the final destination of this journey. After establishing a foundation of love and committing to a daily practice and embracing a life of purpose, what's the outcome? The text calls it the promise, the ultimate inheritance.
The promise is framed as nothing less than a dramatic rescue. It's not about just improving your old life, it's about being transferred into an entirely new one. The text describes it as a complete change of citizenship, being moved from the dominion of darkness and brought into the kingdom of the Son.
This is what the entire journey has been leading to. The text calls it the ultimate transfer. It's a complete shift in your spiritual status and your identity, moving from darkness to light. And the text says this new citizenship is officially sealed by the forgiveness of sins.
And this new inheritance isn't just some abstract idea. It comes with tangible benefits. We're talking a rightful place in the kingdom, a clean slate where that spiritual certificate of debt from sin is just canceled. It means access to spiritual authority, and finally, a confirmation of that unique purpose, that cross that you were called to carry all along.
So how do you stay on this path? The text brings it all back to one final crucial action: focus. The journey is sustained by focusing our eyes on Yeshua, who's presented as both the one who starts the journey of faith and the one who sees it all the way through to completion. So acts of obedience maps out this really clear journey, an obedience that's born from love, sustained by daily practice, aimed at a life of purpose, and resulting in an ultimate promise. So the final question isn't just for others, but for each of us. In a world that is pulling for our attention from every direction, what would it look like to walk a path that's defined not by rules, but by that kind of purpose?